So the other day I made a passing reference to the recent Daytona 500 and how it wasn't actually the Daytona 500, it was more the Daytona 530 because they kept adding laps on at the end. And, you know, in Europe we're like, well, hang on a minute, how can you actually do this? It's a 3-stage process used where they need to get the race restarted again with at least 2 laps remaining. You've got the green flag, which means go back to racing speeds. The white flag, which in American oval racing signifies 1 lap remaining, while in Europe it means slow car on track, and then the checkered flag, which indicates the end of the race. This rule was brought in for the 2004 NASCAR season. Prior to this, races went to the advertised distance. If the race was 200 laps, the race was 200 laps. If it ended under a yellow flag, sucks to be you, better luck next year. The only exception to this rule was an all-star race where in the final portion of the event the caution laps were not counted as official racing laps, so in theory the race should end under a green flag. Now, one reason cited against the introduction of a rule like this is the 2002 Pepsi 400 at Daytona. There was a massive pile-up and NASCAR chose not to red flag the race and pick it up later because there were, in NASCAR's words, too few laps remaining. When the race ended with all the cars crossing the line at a trundle behind the safety car, the fans in attendance lobbed whatever they could get their hands on onto the track. After the fact, NASCAR said they didn't restart the race because of safety reasons, and they cited the 1997 Pepsi 400 as the precedent for this because there was a big pile-up while the race was restarted and Mark Martin got injured as a result. In 2003, NASCAR stopped drivers racing to the line and also added the last red flag rule, which means that with 5 laps left or less to run, the race would not be red flagged. At the 2003 Aaron's 499 at Talladega, Jeff Gordon crossed the line just ahead of Dale Jr. as the caution was called, meaning the race finished behind the safety car because there were too few laps remaining. As with the Pepsi 400 in 2002, fans chucked stuff onto the track in protest. So then in 2004 they introduced the green-white-checkered rule, which is a process rather than a physical thing. That's used for the stage system. In its original format they permitted 1 of these per race. So let's look at an example of how this works. So the race is running and the caution comes out with 2 laps remaining. Because there's no red flag in this situation, the cars trundle around behind the safety car until it's safe to go racing again. If this means that the green flag is shown on lap 205 of 200, then it's on lap 205 of 200. When the race goes green again, it's a 2-lap sprint to the finish. The race goes green at the start of lap 205, we'll use that as the example. Then the white flag is shown at the start of 206, and the checker flag to end the race is at the end of 206, if that makes any sense. However, if there is another crash on that white flag lap, that's it. The race ends, because under post-2003 NASCAR rules, positions are frozen at the point the yellow flag came out. But there is an exception to this rule. If there is a crash and there is a clear run for the leaders to make it to the finish line, so let's say the accident is in turn 2 at somewhere like Pocono, the leaders are allowed to race to the line, so that there is some sort of a race and nobody goes home annoyed. In 2010, the rule was changed so that there would be 3 attempts if need be, and then in 2016 they added what was called the overtime line. If the yellow was called out before the leader crossed that line, then they would do the green and white checker, restart, whatever you want to call it. If the driver had crossed that line, then it's, well, it ends under yellow, better luck next year, stop crashing, etc. The overtime line used to be somewhere around halfway along the lap, but in 2017, the August of 2017, they moved it to the start-finish line, and also made it unlimited attempts to get a restart where the cars roam for those remaining 2 laps without causing another yellow. This was a point of contention at this year's Daytona 500, which resulted in the race running for the longest ever amount of, mileage. Maybe they're advertising green flag racing, 500 miles of green flag racing as opposed to just 500 miles. I mean, it's one way of getting around it. What's also fun about this rule is that under this rule, the pit lane is closed. So if you don't have enough fuel, well, sad trombone noises. Teams are expected to factor this may be happening in their pit strategies, which is a cool element to add. Do you fill up so you're as light and fast as possible come the end, or do you put in that little bit extra just in case? It does have to be said here though that if a cleanup is going to take forever, NASCAR can put in a red flag and stop the cars, so that they don't end up with 20 cars running out of fuel on the track behind the safety car. Pace car. You know what I mean. How different our 2 cultures are. So now I've tried to explain it, you have to look into the actual sporting element of this. From this side of the Atlantic, it seems like a pointless exercise because, well, you're just begging for more carnage. The drivers have got, what, 2 laps to get to the end and make up as many positions as possible. They're going to probably cause another crash because it's that competitive element to things that you just, well, you're not going to beat it out of them. Maybe we just look at it in the way we do here, because in things like football, for instance, overtime isn't a thing. Extra time, as we call it, is for cup competitions like the FA Cup and the knockout stages of the World Cup and the Euros. In racing, if a race is 60 laps, the race is 60 laps. Formula 1 tried an overtime style finish in 2021. That went well, didn't it? Formula 1 also had a race end behind the safety car just last year, and the 2012 championship finished behind the safety car. But that's not to say that overtime doesn't exist here at all. In the British Touring Car Championship, if a safety car comes out, then race control can add up to 3 laps to the race. But that's it. I guess that's the American way of looking at sports. No draws, give me a winner. And there's also the show aspect of it too. Various forms of motorsport are fiddling with that for the show aspect to make it more of a TV-friendly product. F1 with sprint races, NASCAR calling false cautions to bunch the field back up, the WEC looking to change things to keep people interested, Rally, I guess, with those 1v1 super special stages, and so on. And there was a little bit of debate on Twitter about it the other day when I said, hang on, how can it be a 500-mile race, but actually be 530? There was an American saying, it's for the show, it's for TV, plus it means we get an actual race for the win. And then you've got Europeans going, no, it's the Daytona 500. Not the Daytona 530. IndyCar fans have that same mentality. It's the Indy 500, not the Indy 505. Well, unless you're Jacques Villeneuve, obviously. Yes, the Bathurst 1000 isn't exactly 1,000 kilometres, it's 999.82 or something ridiculous like that. And the Le Mans 24 hours isn't exactly 24 hours long. But at least the 24 hours of Le Mans ends on the lap at which the time expires. If you follow me. In a way, NASCAR has got something here with it. For fans in attendance, it means they get a finish. They get a winner on the track and not because the field was frozen thanks to the yellow. On the other hand, as I've pointed out a couple of times now, it's the Daytona 500, not the Daytona 510, 520, 530, 900, whatever it might be. But let me know what you think of it all down in the designated comment section, and, like and subscribe and all that YouTube stuff too. Massive thanks to the folk over at Patreon for the support, and if you want to help out around here with contributing to the expenses of buying images and such, there is a link to Patreon in the description, along with links to Discord and also to my socials. Or if you just want to do a one-off tip, there's super thanks down there too. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind, have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. Goodbye.